It's Mike Jones from DC101. The guy I have on the phone today, you may have heard of his band, Incubus. They've been around for a little bit. Their lead singer, Mr. Brandon Boyd, chatting with him today. Brandon, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So let me tell you what I liked finding out about you, Brandon, that you're an artist and a singer and a very spiritual kind of guy. I also like, though, seeing a ton of references all over the place from G.I. Joe and A-Team and Muppets and Gremlins. And you're an 80s guy at heart, dude, and I like that because no matter who you are, what your position in life, you always go back to that stuff as a kid and those fun times you had growing up looking at that kind of stuff.
I am guilty of growing up in the 80s and 90s. I feel like we have a lot of good sort of pop cultural reference points that still seem even quasi-relevant today. That's why I see a picture of Kermit the Frog, or I think in A-Team isms and G.I. Joe isms occasionally. So, yeah.
What was your go-to when you were growing up? What was the thing you always had to watch no matter what?
There was a period of time, just for a couple of years, where my brothers and I have two brothers, and we terrorized my mom, I'm sure, but we were like obsessed with the A-Team and Rambo movies and stuff. So there was a couple of years there where we only wore camouflage and were trudging through the hills. And there's actually an amazing moment with sort of the apex of that time period. My dad was friends with the people who produced the A-Team, and they were filming actually one of the episodes near our house. And so he was able to arrange for us to go and meet Mr. T. And it was a surprise. And so I think I was 8, and we showed up all dressed in camouflage, not really knowing where we were going. And Mr. T shoots his AK-47 and saves the day. And then I'll cut. All right, everybody, blah, blah, blah. And he just walks straight up to us and goes, "What's up, you guys?" And we basically blew our mind. It was like the greatest day of my 8-year-old life.
Do you still have the picture from that, or is it somewhere in the family house back at home?
My parents have the picture somewhere. It's Mr. T kneeling, and then my 3 brothers kind of like hanging out with him, but we both have the look on our face like, holy shnikes, like what is happening? This is the greatest.
Oh, that is the best story, dude. You gotta get Mr. T now to record an Incubus intro video for when you guys are on the road. That would be awesome.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm gonna look into that.
You should. You absolutely should, man. I'm trying to help Incubus out as much as I can here. So see if you can make that happen.
Appreciate that.
What are your obsessions now, Brandon? What are you into 2015, Brandon? What do you got going on with yourself?
I've been kind of re-obsessed with music, art, and photography. These are things that have been continuing obsessions in my life, but I feel like I've reconnected with them. In particular, music and painting. And just over the past year and a half, had this just sort of waves of inspiration around songwriting and around painting and stuff. And with much sort of fortuitous result, I've been touring my painting series over in Europe, and certain galleries in Europe have been embracing my art, which has been wonderful. And then we've had these wonderful waves of inspiration with Incubus, which has been kind of a long time coming. We were away for quite some time, and we got back together around the availability of a studio space, which is so random. It wasn't like, it's time, you guys, to write a record. We didn't have it really on the books. And this amazing studio space opportunity opened up to us here in LA. And Michael and I went and looked at it, and it was perfect in so many ways. And we just all got together and started jamming. And then all of a sudden we had a handful of songs, and then all of a sudden we were talking to a new record label, and then all of a sudden we were touring. We already toured in Australia and Asia last month, and now we're going over to Europe, and we're going to be touring in the States this summer with the Deftones.
And we'll see you guys on Sunday, of course, when you're headlining our little show, the DC101 Kerfuffle. So thank you in advance for coming out and doing that for us. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Man.
Absolutely, dude. So let's talk about the EPs and everything, Brandon. I looked at some of the set lists from the other tours. And I noticed that, you did a couple songs from the EPs on there. Is it one of those things where you want to play the new songs, but also you got to keep those back a little bit until you actually release it too? I mean, that's got to be a delicate balance where you're trying to put the set list out right before you release a new set of music.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was left completely to our deepest indulgences as a band, it would be like, we'd be playing even songs that we just finished yesterday. But there has to be a little bit of strategizing when it comes to the set list, right? Especially when you have new music coming out. So we've been holding back some of the new stuff, but we also take into consideration that we're a band that's been together for over 20 years, and there are a great number of songs that have helped propel us to this point, as well as all these, like 7 albums worth of material that people do really want to hear. So our set lists have become these sort of great amalgamations of our songwriting past, it's so much fun. We're kind of spanning the whole career at this point in our set list.
When you guys made the choice to do the 2 EPs, was that a call because you wanted to try something different? Was it looking at it like, all right, we can focus on these 5 or 4 or 6 songs at one time and then go back and really focus on the next batch? How was that going through the band's process in there?
It was a couple of things, one of the things being that the traditional 10 to 12 song LP really is something that, and it's a little bit, with a little bit of a heavy heart I say it, but one of the realities is that it's something that's going away. Mm-hmm. And most people aren't buying whole albums anymore. They might be listening to them, but they're not going out into the record store. And if there's a record store in the town, not going out and purchasing an album. And so it's mostly, a single-based economy. People buy single songs. If they like it, they buy another song. And I get it. I don't really have any hard feelings about that. But we grew up in a time, this is, referencing back to the early part of our conversation, in the 80s and 90s, when, especially in the 80s, it's like you had vinyl and cassette, and your favorite albums became these little mini journeys. And so there would be a side A, and then when side A was done, that part of the journey was over, and you hit eject or turn the record over, and then start into the side B of your journey. So with the EP, there was this opportunity to have a smaller burst of information with the music, which we hope will be more palatable to, the audience at this point. But then we also get to sort of have our cake and eat it too by there being a side B that comes out later in the year. So it's a little bit like we're acknowledging the face of modernity here with putting out a shorter burst of music, but then the second part of the adventure comes later in the year. And so that's kind of the thought process. It also gives us the opportunity to tour while we're putting out music, which is something that normally we would just put out an entire album and then go on tour for 18 months. This just gives us the opportunity to put out music, go on tour, come home, write more music, informed by our present experiences, put out more music, go back out on tour. It's just a little bit different. It's been fun so far.
So when you guys go over to Europe, you're gonna be there throughout May and going into June, and then once you come home, are you planning on writing the second EP, or have you guys already laid down some tracks for that already?
We have been we've off to Australia and Asia last month, and we had already finished side A before we did that, and so we've actually been home for the past few weeks writing and recording side B, which has been going fantastically well. I'm actually really excited about so much of the material that's been coming out. But we'll go out, like you said, to Europe and then come home and probably finish side B. That's the hope, at least. So it'll be done sooner than later.
While you're over in Europe, Brandon, I'm looking at your Instagram page and all your social media going on. I noticed on your tour that you have a couple days in between the shows there where you can. Now, are you going to take that time and experience the European countries too? Take your camera out, go traveling and everything in between doing the sets?
That is the hope. Usually days are very rare and sacred things. So if we do have days off that aren't being consumed by long travel days, then yes, you can find me in a flower-laden European field with milk maidens trotting beside me and taking pictures and riding horses bareback and all that great European stuff that we do.
Well, but I think that's cool, though. I mean, you joke about it, but that's cool that you guys, and you aren't just sitting there on the tour bus like, all right, we're just twiddling our thumbs and doing, watching movies or whatever till the next showtime, till we have to hit the stage again. That's nice that you're going out and, living life and using a work trip, quote unquote, as an experience for yourself.
Oh, I feel half the fun, for me at least, when we travel, everywhere we travel, is I'm obsessed with photography, and I'm obsessed with searching aimlessly for things I don't even know I'm searching for. So I always use the opportunity when I leave my home to just look and just try and overturn stones and see what's there. I think I have a little bit of a restless spirit in that regard. So I walk a lot on days off, and I take a lot of pictures. There's a lot of people probably could tell from my Instagram stuff. So, and the books I put out and things like that. So yeah, I love when we go overseas and when we travel to the States and stuff. It's just a wonderful opportunity.
All right, let me ask you two more things before I let you go, Brandon. Number one, the guy that danced to Absolution Calling in the library is that now the official Absolution Calling dance? Do we have to do that while you guys are playing that on stage?
Yes.
All right, then I'm going to get a fencing sword and make sure I'm prepared for Sunday then when you do it. And the last thing, Rivers Cuomo, I don't know if you saw this, but a couple weeks back he was talking with Larry King, and he said he got some of your fan mail. Now, has he contacted you to return that stuff, as you are supposedly the rightful owner?
I saw that too. I have yet to receive any of the forwarded fan mail from Rivers Cuomo, so I should probably remind him to forward me some of that stuff. That was the strangest thing. It was so random when I saw that, but I kind of loved it too.
I'm just dying to know what was in those packages and everything. When you get them back, if Rivers does decide to send them to you, and I hope that he does, that is a federal offense, stealing someone's mail. When he does send those back to you, when he does send them back, will you put some pictures up and let us see what was in there?
Absolutely. I'll show you. Hopefully it was like, perfumed brassieres and things like that, unless he keeps those things for himself.
Brandon, I'm looking forward to it, man. You guys, Incubus headlining our DC101 Kerfuffle this Sunday at Merriweather. You can grab tickets at ticketfly.com. And then the following week, we're looking forward to Trust Fall Side A coming out on Tuesday, May 12th. And one other thing I do want to point out, follow along on the Incubus website, or follow you guys on Twitter, because you guys are doing a lot of great things with your Make Yourself Foundation, especially recently with Nepal. So I want everyone to know what you guys are involved with, helping people out around the world. I think that's awesome.
Right on, man. Thank you.